Hello and welcome back to the channel. I am Prashasti Arora and today we will be discussing the important news articles and editorials that are relevant in the exam point of view. Also, this video will help you get the gist of all the articles that you need to write and that are relevant in today's times, right? Now, before we start, there's one thing that you have to know is that there are free special classes series by Abhishek Saraf, who's All India Rank 8 in UPSC CSE 2019. So today we have very nice articles and we will be covering them one by one, and a lot of it is also relevant in the context of prelims and of course for writing mains. So we have some articles on environment and we have some articles on, of course, COVID. Then we have some very interesting border clashes that just happened recently between Assam and Mizoram. Then we'll talk a little about the governor's role, post which we will also talk about domestic workers, and then we will finally have a good explainer on Israel and Bahrain relations. So stay tuned till the end and I hope you like this session. If you have any doubts, any sort of issues with the topic that I'm discussing, please let me know in the comment section below so that I can improvise and help you understand better. Now, the first article that we'll be discussing is that the Zoological Survey of India has launched a report, right, which is basically a report on skinks of India. Now, a lot of people will wonder what skinks are. You can see in the image that skinks are reptiles like lizards with long bodies, relatively small or no legs, and no prolonged neck and glossy scales, which is not exactly like lizards, but they are similar to, they are kind of lizards, right? And skinks are common reptiles around homes, garages, open spaces, and lakes, right? India is home to 62 species of skinks, out of which 33 are endemic to India. World over, there are 1,602 species of skinks. So this is something that you have to remember, that 62 species out of which 33 are endemic. Now we know what endemic to India means, that they're found in India, right? And it moves in a slithering manner like a snake, and hence people out of ignorance assume that it is venomous and kill it. So one of the major threats of this species is essentially that it is a kind to a snake, which is why it is killed, because a lot of people think that it has venom. So this is something that that needs to be brought into awareness, and there needs to be a differentiation between the snakes and skinks. Right now, Zoological Survey of India also collaborated with other institutions like the Bombay Natural History Society and Salim Ali Center. Right, so these are the two collaborations that have been done. Now, Zoological Survey of India is headquartered in Kolkata. This is something that we have to remember here, and it was established in 1916 under the Ministry of Forest, Environment and Climate Change. Right. Now, Bombay Natural History Society, which is in Bombay, in Mumbai, and it has an autonomous organization. Okay, it is an autonomous organization. Also, one thing that you need to remember here is that it also organizes walks around nature trails. So this was a question that was asked in prelims paper 2014, and one of the options was, does it organize walks around nature trails? So the answer is yes, right? Now, Salim Ali Center, it is based out of Coimbatore, which is in Tamil Nadu, which is also called the Manchester of the South for its textiles manufacturing, which is something that you should know. And Salim Ali was India's foremost experts in the field of study of birds. So that is something that you have to remember. Study of birds was something that Salim Ali was specialized in, right? And study of birds is also called orientology, right? So remember this in the context of environment. Now, we know that coronavirus has wreaked havoc in the whole of the world, and a report prepared by a committee appointed by the Department of Science and Technology under Ministry of Science and Tech has stated that India has gone past the COVID-19 peak. So this is a good news, especially after so much turmoil that the virus has created. With around 93,000 cases and 1,170 deaths per day being reported in mid-September, as of October 17th, India has reported around 63,000 cases and 800 deaths per day. So you can see that from September to October, the numbers have reduced, and this is a good sign for the economy, right? The report also states that India's total number of cases will be capped at 106 lakhs by early next year, and there will be a decline by just 50,000 cases or even lesser from December, right? Now, however, this has been built on the premise that there are further spikes due to festive season, right? We know that with Diwali and the Durga Puja that is coming up, there is there is expected to be a further spike in the number of cases, and this will lead to super spreaders like the Tablighi Jamaat event. I think you all remember that in April uh, there was a Tablighi Jamaat event wherein the, the the virus spread tremendously in the whole country, right? And even the Onam celebrations in Kerala, which have also resulted in spike in number of cases in the state. Excuse me. Also, the campaigning in Bihar for the upcoming state legislative assembly elections is also a cause of concern, as Election Commission of India's social distancing guidelines are not being adhered to. They're being violated, and this is not a very good sign for Bihar, right? India presently has over 75 lakh cases, and of which for 7 lakh 74,000 are active, right? Now, a very important article from the Northeast is that Assam-Mizoram border tense after clash. Now, what you have to remember here is that border clashes were reported in the Assam-Mizoram border, right? On Monday, a meeting between the Union Home Secretary and the Chief Secretaries of Assam and Mizoram is expected to further bring the situation under control. Now, what exactly is the issue? Assam and Mizoram share a border of 123 kilometers. Okay. Now, Mizoram claims that land up to 509 square kilometers, which is presently under the administrative control of Assam. So, this issue is something that we have to remember for internal security, right? Now, why is this issue there? Most of the states of Northeast India were part of the state of Assam before being carved out into separate states within the Indian Union. So we know that most of the northeastern states were under Assam, right? So that is why there is a border issue in that regard. Now, this reorganization was carried out without analyzing the various issues pertaining to the socio-economic development of the region. Now, we know that all the places in northeast had some sort of issue or the other, right? So, without, and we also have to understand that northeast is very diverse. It has various tribes and various regional groupings, because of which this whole area also becomes more contested, right? Now, Mizoram was part of Assam and was called the Lusai Hill District, right? Now, in 1972, it became a union territory in 1972 and a state in 1987. So, what we have to remember is that Mizoram before was a union territory, and then it became a state in 1987, right? Now, Assam has border issues with states of Arunachal Pradesh, Meghalaya, and Nagaland as well, because we know that they all were a part of Assam before. So, this is why the issue comes up, right? Now, Article 131 of the Indian Constitution provides for original jurisdiction. This is something that we have to remember. Original jurisdiction of the Supreme Court, which amongst others is the settlement of disputes between the Union and the states, between states or Union on one hand and states together on the other hand. So I think we are very clear with Article 131 of the Indian Constitution that provides original jurisdiction, right? Now Chhattisgarh and Kerala, right, approached the Supreme Court and filed cases against the Union after the passage of the Citizenship Amendment Act in 2019, right? The court is yet to deliberate on the issue as to whether the states can approach the Supreme Court to squash a law on which the Union has absolute powers to legislate upon. We know that the citizenship subject is primarily under the Union list, which is why this whole issue has sprung up, right? In the past, the courts have also given conflicting judgments. Okay? So, Assam-Mizoram border tense after clash is, I hope, very clear to you. Now, a very important article, especially with the governor's role, is there. Today, it was there as an editorial, wherein we know that the governor of Maharashtra's letter to the chief minister of the state asking him to open up places of worship and asking him whether he has become secular has raised a lot of issues related to the role and functions of the governor. So the editorial called the Raj Bhavan's new role taking center stage is something that we'll discuss right now. Now, the governor's job is to ensure that the state is functioning according to the principles enshrined in the Constitution of India, right? Now, he has certain discretionary powers and can use them to fulfill his responsibilities as the head of state. So, we know that the governor is the head of state and he has certain discretionary powers, right? The Constituent Assembly has refused to provide any instructions to the governor and left it to his consent. So, we know that the Constituent Assembly did not categorically say that these are the kind of instructions that a governor has to follow, and it was left open-ended, right? Now, in a quasi-federal setup like India, the states are not subservient to the union and have their own powers. We know that. The center and states are the states are definitely not subservient to the union, right? However, in many cases, the governor and states ruled by the opposition parties have become agents of political party in power at the center. So, because of the fact that the governor's position, the role is and responsibilities are very ambiguous, that is why a lot of problems are springing. Right? Now, while Article 167 empowers the governor to call upon the state government to provide information pertaining to the administration of the state, it does not empower them to become citadels of political maneuvering. I hope you've understood this in a nutshell. It's basically that Article 165, even though empowers the governor to call upon the state government to provide information pertaining to the administration of the state, but it does not empower them to become agents of the political agenda, right? Now, the problem is that every state has had some issues with the governor because of the fact that the roles and responsibilities are not effectively given in the constitution, right? Now, many decisions taken by the governors have been overruled by the Supreme Court in recent times. We know that even Anil Bajal and Arvind Kejriwal had a small fight of sorts because of the coronavirus pandemic and because of the number of beds that were available for Delhi citizens and etc. Right? Now, the Rajinder Sarkaria Commission report and the Supreme Court in the S.R. Bomai case. Now, these are very, very important in the context of polity because they have given measures for the governors to follow. So that's why SR Bomai case becomes very important. SR Bomai case, SR Bomai was the chief minister and he had gone to the Supreme Court for the whole problem of the arbitrary power that was the arbitrary power by the center on the state. So that's why it becomes very important, right? Now, getting to a very deep rooted societal issue, that is domestic workers. Now, we know that the situation of domestic workers in India is part of the unorganized sector and is said to be privileged after the lockdown initiated due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Right now, a survey finds that over 87% of the workers lost their job. Over 91% weren't paid their wages for the month of April. This was a survey conducted by Bangalore-based organization, and the sample size was about 2,400 domestic workers. Now, the fact is that India has about 5 million domestic workers, out of which 3.5 million are women, right? Now, the Union Ministry of Labour and Employment is still considering a national policy on domestic workers. So, it's still not in place. So, this is something that is still being considered, right? There is absolutely no job security, there is no social protection, and they form a part of the unorganized sector. Right? A rise in the middle class population and the mushrooming of urban centers like Noida and Gurugram have necessitated the demand for domestic workers. Now, many fake agencies also continue to exploit women from poorer states of India such as Bihar, Jharkhand and West Bengal. These women face really harsh working conditions and are not paid their wages, are overexploited and face incidents of sexual violence too. For this, the government has enacted the Unorganized Social Security Act 2008, right? The Unorganized Social Security Act and Sexual Harassment Against Women at Workplace Prevention and Prohibition Redressal Act 2013. We know this. Now, however, because of the lack of awareness and administrative reluctance, it has prohibited a successful implementation of the welfare measures for these individuals. So, we know that domestic workers are being heavily exploited, and especially with the pandemic in place, a lot of households are not ready to employ the domestic workers because of the health, uh, you know, reasons. So it is important that this process is streamlined and all the stakeholders come together and form and ensure that domestic workers are not exploited, right? Now, the last very important and very interesting article that we'll be doing today is Israel and Bahrain to formalize diplomatic ties. Now, we know that it is a US mediated deal wherein West Asia is all set to embrace Israel, and this will have far-reaching geopolitical ramifications, right? We know that this area is essentially very, very important in the global politics, right? And now, to get a background of the deal, the creation of Israel, which has its origins in the Balfour Declaration, has been opposed by other Western nations and the Muslim world in general, right? Now, Israel was created in 1948, and ever since it has fought four major wars with its neighbors. Right now, Israeli diplomacy has been successful to a very great extent. Right, it began with Egypt in 1979, followed by Jordan in 1994. It then took over 26 years for the next state to grant recognition to Israel. Right, Israel Palestine, of course, has been used for all the negative reasons. Palestine crisis is something that still the authorities are deliberating upon, right? In August 2020, UAE became the third Arab state and first in the Gulf Cooperation Council to recognize Israel. So when was it actually recognized? 2020. UAE became the third Arab state, right? And the first one in the Gulf Cooperation Council. Now, this was followed by Bahrain in September 2020. So, this is what we're reading, right? Now, both UAE and Bahrain have now been established as diplomatic relations, right? Now, the deal is that the deal grants de jure state recognition under international law and establishment of normal and peaceful diplomatic relationship between Israel. We know that Israel, they all have a very conflicting relationship. So, this deal, which is the so basically de jure is a permanent recognition, state recognition under international law, and its establishment will help the area to stabilize and have some sort of, you know, peaceful relationships with each other, right? Now, Israel, on the other hand, has agreed to eschew its expansion of territories which are considered to be part of the West Bank and Palestine, right? Now, following these developments, Israel and UAE have announced a formal dialogue to normalize their relations, right? The two sides have established direct telephone connections, flight connectivity, among other things. Now, in that regard, one major factor and the urgency which has led to this is the elephant in the room that we all know is Iran, right? The changing security situation in the region has forced these nations to unite and normalize relations. We know that this area is very, very fragile and it has a very, like, it has a lot of instability going on. So, this deal is the step in the right direction, but there are a lot of other factors that are really not in the favor of the deal. So, let's look at that also. An aggressive Iran, which is on the path of destruction, doesn't bode well with the prosperity of this region. We all know how Iran wants to be the big brother of all the neighboring countries, right? However, one major drawback in this entire matter is the issue of rights of the Palestinian people. A lot of people who have analyzed this deal are very critical of the fact that the Palestinian people will suffer because of this deal, and the two-state solution does not find any mention in the deal. So this is a major, major drawback for the deal, right? Now, about India and the deal, a turbulent West Asia is no one's interest and definitely harms India, right? With a diaspora of 7 million people in these nations, India is concerned with the instability, right? India has over USD 100 million trade with just the 6 members of the Gulf Cooperation Council, right? Now, over 70% of its energy requirements too are imported, and nations in the region play a critical role, right? Now, this deal we can see is both positive as well as dangerous. While nations become friendly with Israel, any sort of anti-Iran alliance or that is being built will only ruin the situation, right? Now, already due to US pressure and the fear of countering American adversaries through Sanctions Act, we know the CASTA Act, India has cut down its oil imports from China, because of which India has been heavily impacted. Now, what are the options before India? What can India exactly do? A lack of policy direction ensures that India only reacts to various issues and does not actively shape its outcomes. India does not have a proper document as to what needs to be done, so it's important that it picks up the issue and it deliberates on that and takes out its outcomes, right? India, using its goodwill, should be playing a more active role in bringing these two sides to the negotiating table. Now, India can play a third party role and be the mediator between the two countries and help them resolve issues and gain an edge in the political arena. So, this is for today. These were some of the articles that were very relevant and very important, right? Before I sign out, there is something that I need to tell you. Unacademy Aspire is an all India free mock test for all of the civil service aspirants, and it is conducted on 10th and 25th of every month. So do sign up for this, and that's it from my side. Thank you.